What's up, world? It's yours truly, Eric Mazampaka, and welcome to a new year of Stunt Corner podcast. I am here with professional stunt performer, stunt coordinator, and precision driver, ZANDARA Killer Clutch Kennedy.
That's a new one.
Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah, 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 yeah. New rebels, we the new rebels, ayy. New rebels, we the new rebels, ayy. They be saying good is bad, they be saying bad is good. Everybody got it misunderstood. I don't know what happened, everybody get to tripping. All the Christians get to slipping. Seem like everybody switching, everybody get to going off the deep end. They was doing good until the weekend. They ain't hit the floor with the knee bend. They was going strong but had a weekend. Oh Lord, I altered the truth. Say what's good is good. What's bad is bad.
As one article described her, this is one adventurous, talented, fearless, badass lady. Please welcome ZANDARA Kennedy.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
High five from COVID high five? Bam! So, ZANDARA, you strike me as a person with a relentless work ethic. Where did that start for you?
I have no idea because I kind of still tell people that I think I'm lazy. I still feel inside like I am a lazy person.
Oh, wow. Because when you look at your work, I don't get that at all.
I guess that's that dichotomy between how we perceive ourselves
Okay.
and how we are. But I don't know. I've always just been curious about how far I could go, I think, is really where it starts.
And is that something that started in elementary school? Were you the one trying to climb the monkey bars the highest? Were you the one trying to outrun everyone the fastest?
Yeah, I was the kid doing the cartwheels on the, being above the tire swing, and the other parents were freaking out, and my parents were like, look, we can't stop her, so.
And where did you grow up?
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Yeah.
Cool. When did you move to BC?
I was 13,
13.
moved to Abbotsford.
Oh, wow.
That didn't take.
Oh, wow. Especially at 13, because 13 is a pretty, there's a lot of changes happening when you're 13.
There's a lot happening, and Abbotsford is a really big contrast from Ottawa. Especially at the time, it wasn't a very diverse place.
Oh,
and
okay.
Ottawa has a lot of embassies, so it's especially diverse.
Cool.
Yeah, my parents are South African. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Cool.
so
Shit,
so
okay.
they moved to Ottawa, but they don't really like winter.
Cool, okay.
So that wasn't really a good vibe for them. But they kind of raised me a certain way, and I was used to seeing a lot of different kinds of people around. And so moving to Abbotsford at a time when it was really just two divisive kind of religious communities was weird.
And so, because of that, was that any reason for you to want to be more, develop that work ethic towards gymnastics, martial arts? Was that just to...
It was definitely a part of that. I mean, I pushed really hard to get out of school early, get out of Abbotsford early. So because I was doing trampoline on the side, I was able to convince the school to not make me do phys ed. And then I just did other classes so that I could graduate early and leave Abbotsford.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, yeah, it did kind of push me to work hard to get away or to get to something else.
Yeah, it's amazing how people's situations can really shape their work ethic like that. Because, similar story about, we moved here when I was about 9, but you kind of look at your surroundings and you realize the only way to get out there is to work.
Yeah.
Is to find something to wrap yourself around. And so, what martial arts were you training at this time?
I actually didn't do a lot of martial arts. I dabbled a little bit over the years in karate, taekwondo as a kid. And then later, once I was out here and I was training in stunts, I got really into Muay Thai.
Ah, yeah, okay.
But I'm not a martial artist per se. I have a love for it. I love sparring. I love Filipino martial arts as well. But that wasn't really the foundation of what I did. Yeah, it was a lot more the circus, trampoline, acrobatic side of things.
Cool. And so when you were growing up, did you have an inkling towards wanting to be a stunt performer, or did you want to get more into circus?
My dream was always to be in Cirque du Soleil.
Okay, cool.
That was always where I thought I was going to head. And when my family moved, or my mom and my brother and I moved at that time to Abbotsford when I was 13, there's no circus in Abbotsford,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of had to shift focuses. I got a driver's license. I think I heard about stunts as a job and went, oh, that's kind of like circus, only better. Like,
Yeah.
I was sort of lucky in a way. I witnessed a friend that I did trampoline with. He got into circus really early, and I saw the negative side of it. Like that, it's quite corporate in a way, right?
Yeah.
You are living with the same 50 to 100 people for 3 years and just doing the same thing day after day after day. And I think what drew me to film is the fact that no day is the same.
Yeah.
You know?
And so when you were getting into the industry, usually it takes a few years for people to A, know that you're competent and won't hurt yourself, and B, there's a certain tough skin you need to be able to have to survive.
Yeah.
And it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
So it speaks volumes for people that are able to do 10 plus years in it.
Yeah.
And for you. So for any up and coming performers, men or women, what advice do you have for longevity in this industry?
The thing that I learned, I mean, it took me at least 5 years. They say it takes 5 years, and it definitely took me at least that, because I'm not super charismatic.
Yeah.
And I'm not charming in that way. You know, some people, you meet them and you're like, oh, this person's so great. We should have them out. We like having them around, right?
Yeah.
And plus they're talented.
Yeah.
I was always really quiet, and I think that worked to my disadvantage for a while because people weren't able to connect with me. I think that part of that human connection is what makes at least the community here so unique. We really do actually want to connect with the people.
Yeah.
You know, so letting people see you, I think, is really important, but also being really aware that people want to see you. So they are looking for indications of your personality in everything that you do.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely look for, in newer performers, like if I hear something about somebody's attitude, I'm gonna take it really seriously, because that is kind of a representation of our entire community. So not acting entitled, like don't shit where you eat, like just all of those things where it's like, how is this long term going to affect things, especially for women? Unfortunately, you know, there is a bit of a double standard where guys can sleep around. And that's totally cool. And they're just like, anyway, that's cool. Good for him.
Hey, like
you're dating another stunt girl. Awesome, right?
Yeah.
But for women, that kind of sticks with you. And also for the stunt women that have put the time in and eaten a lot of shit, you know, literally, it's hard to see someone getting a job just because they're dating somebody, you know? And so even if you are talented, that's something you're going to have to overcome, right? We all dismiss people that are like that, and a lot of them don't stay around. Yeah.
And also what I've noticed me, because it has taken me about like 5-6 years, and now I feel like I'm comfortable in it. You know, it's like those large gaps between jobs are slowly getting smaller and smaller. But one thing I've realized is that a lot of the projects or films we work on, the outfits the stunt performers have to wear don't allow them to really pad up much. So they would be in a gown being thrown off the edge of a cliff, while on the other hand, the dude with the tuxedo literally has every pad imaginable under there. So I feel like women in this industry have to be substantially tougher than the men, but generally don't get acknowledged for that.
It's true. And I mean, I think the women that last have that toughness. There are women that get into this industry that decide they don't really want to fall down, but they like the money, and they shouldn't be in it, honestly. But I've definitely I mean, every stunt woman has stories. I worked on Carrie a few years ago, well, like 10 now. But it was like, we would just change prom dresses all the time. So like my outfit was this, and it was like, can you just eat shit right there and also there? And the guys would come to set and they forgot to put their pads on, so they'd like put a mat down for the guys, and we're like, hi, it's us again. Okay. So the makeup would be like, could you guys just stop with the bruises? Like it was probably 3 weeks, and they were just having to cover all of our bruises because we didn't have any sleeves or pants.
So like right now we're in a push for this diversity. You as a strong performer for 16 years?
I think I've been in the industry about 16, 17 years.
16 years,
but
like that's...
again, at least 5 years of just trying.
I'm just trying to,
you know?
but all added up together, like that's a significant time to be around in a career and see changes. Now, are these changes you see positive towards more acknowledgement of double standards? you know, and being able to have that conversation without maybe feeling attacked.
I think overall, yes. Overall, yes. I think the general culture is evolving.
Yeah.
Not everyone is moving at the same pace,
Yeah.
you know, but as we have new, younger people who feel that that's a priority, as that discussion is being had in meetings or just between other performers, I think it is changing. You know, more and more performers are kind of taking it on themselves to say, am I the right person for this job?
Yeah.
You know, which I think when it wasn't as busy or people were hungrier, they would have multiple reasons not to ask that question.
Yeah.
Now, yes, there's additional attention and there are potential negative consequences for taking a job that you shouldn't take.
Yeah.
There's also the fact that there kind of is enough work to go around.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be proud of all of the jobs that I've taken and know I'm the right person for it.
For the job,
Yeah.
And like, well, one of the conversations that always comes up is hiring the right person for the job.
Yeah.
Which I'm total agreement with. The one issue I do have is there's generally not a diverse pool
Yes.
of performers. And so one of the main reasons for even a podcast like this, as small as it is to try to inspire BIPOC, anyone, that this is an industry that needs more diverse people of wide skill set.
Yes.
And with that being said, as we move into a new year, as everything around us is changing at a rapid pace due to the pandemic, COVID, diversity, representation, we're in a flux right now. Everything is like churned up. You know, there's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of strong feelings from different groups of people. What are some of the steps? What are some of the steps you think production could do in order to promote more people to the idea that this is a valid career choice? Because it's not like we're not like a college that has posters up saying, "Hey, look, we're looking for diversity." It's a pretty like, unless you know people in it, it's really hard to kind of find out that you can actually make a career without being a professional athlete, figure skater, race car driver, you know, snowboarder.
Yeah, I think on the production end, I feel like they're starting to do it, and that is hiring more diverse actors, having more diversity on screen so that it mandates we need more diverse stunt performers to fill that gap. Right now, we're almost in this place where productions have stepped up diversity, but our community is still racing to catch up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as I was telling you before, like I've experienced situations now where the show that I work on is really diverse and they are actively hiring more diverse characters that aren't just Black or Asian. You know, and so it's especially apparent when I need to double those people, how small our community is. So while I don't think the productions can do anything, I think the community needs to do it. And in a way, we're starting to step up, but these initiatives are coming, you know, it's still in a reactionary phase as opposed to preemptive.
Yeah, okay.
Like when the Black Lives Matter movement really came to a head last year, I felt super, what can I do about it? And that was part of the reason why we did the driving course that we did for BIPOC women.
Cool.
Because it's something that's come up a lot where, hey, we have this person, and I'm like, okay, well, have you tried these other people? Well, it's a drifting thing, and I'm like, okay, you know. So we brought a bunch of women out, had them drive, gave them this opportunity for almost no cost. But beyond that, I've also really been pushing a lot of the women in our community that I felt had potential and just said, hey, you need to go out here, buy a standard car if you don't drive standard, do these things. And I do call them and I check up on them because the long-term goal is that myself or Gaston won't have to do those jobs because there will be people that can, but it does take time. So there's that balance of serving the industry, you know, providing the action that they want to see, but also building up the community and building up the skill set of the people around us.
Which takes time, like you said.
It does.
Not a quick turnaround.
I'm a part of the stunt committee in Vancouver, the UBCP stunt committee, and a lot of what we're working on right now has to do with diversity. Roralie Teo, who you probably know, and Lauro Chartrand, they've been working on some outreach into the First Nations community because we really don't have any First Nation performers. And that's not to me, that's not a lack of diversity in Vancouver. That's a lack of exposure in those communities.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, if you don't know it's a job, you don't know it's a job.
No.
You can't even want to do it if you can't see it.
Yeah.
So it is kind of on us if we want to expand the diversity within our community to show people that it's a job,
Yeah.
you know, in front of and behind camera.
Yeah, no, you've like even one of the articles I was just reading about you online says you're fearless advocate for like, and which I feel, right, and
I'm going to be honest. I thought that was really flattering. I'm reluctant to take on the moniker fearless advocate. I've definitely been fearful. There's definitely times that I wish I had spoken up and I haven't, you know, and we're imperfect and we're learning, you know?
I love that you said that because I do understand that feeling because we do represent a group that's hasn't been the most like, we're like I wouldn't say in the bottom of the totem pole here, but there's a lot of code switching we have to do. There's a lot of ways we have to kind of shape and just in order to work, in order to gain work. There's a lot of times even I find myself having to bite my tongue because it's not out of it's out of ignorance of them not maybe having enough experience around a group of people and the way they say certain things. But I find that struggle with myself when I'm like, should I say something now? But I want to work.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a hard place to be.
As a woman, that's definitely a big part of the conversation. I mean, you don't want to be that girl that's getting offended.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very male-dominated industry. I can do a lot of inappropriate joking, and I'm cool with that. You know, but there's definitely a line there where if you're not the person saying, hey man, that's not really cool. Yeah. You know, no one is going to say it and the culture isn't going to change. Yeah. But at the same time, until you're in a position to know if this person doesn't hire me, I'm still going to work.
Yeah.
You can't do that without risking so much.
Yeah.
Right? I'm really lucky to be in a position now where I'm probably going to get the driving call.
Yeah.
I have my own show.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't hire me, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. You know, so I'm a little bit less afraid to take that stand, try to create opportunities, and I work with a group of really inclusive people who are open to me asking those discussions, having those discussions, asking those questions. Like, does ethnicity matter here in this character? Could we use someone else? If it's full prosthetics, does it matter what color the person is if their body is the right shape?
Yeah, and it's especially for women. Like I like there's so much I've just opened my own eyes to that I was like, holy shit, I didn't even realize, you know, my wife's opened my eyes to things that I'm not even aware of. And I find myself as, you know, Afro-Canadian immigrant, there's a tokenism that is expected of me when I'm around. You know, I'm supposed to be the cool black dude that's like, you know, and like I'm okay with people's, and it's no knock on if people want to treat me like that. I don't take it as a insult. I'm like, but what there is there's no allowance of you to be you. You have to be a representation of that group. So you're not just ZANDARA. You're like, oh, we hired a woman for this job. You know, like that, like, and a lot of that. I tended to be kind of angry towards just the optics of the whole thing. But one thing I've kind of started to realize was nothing can really change. You know, you always want true change from the inside out, right? But sometimes what I realize in industries that are commercialized, the change kind of needs to come from the outside in. So like commercials need to take it, like you were saying, production, like hiring more diverse class. Yeah. So my question is, the changes you've seen, are they more optic or are they more genuine changes you see? Or are they productions just saving their ass?
Are they performative? Or? I think it really depends production to production. Okay. You know, you work a lot on CW shows and my show is CW, but I'm aware also of some of the other shows where they're introducing transgender characters or I think there is an effort above the line where people are saying, hey, you know what, it's important to reflect maybe what our target audience looks like or is looking for. You know, I think when you're targeting a younger audience, it's more expected and also accepted. You know, I think there's a ton that we can do when you have access to this medium. I don't think all shows are doing it because they feel that it's right. I know that the show that I'm doing is doing it because they feel that it's really important. You know, they went out of their way to have a deaf character.
Oh wow.
You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's played by a deaf actor.
Beautiful, yeah.
You know, and it's all of those little, like, just normalizing those things without having it be a plot point.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
totally
not
get
like,
that.
oh, he's deaf and this thing happened.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, cool. And that one's gay, and
Yeah.
this guy, you know,
Yeah.
walks with a limp, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. As when we start seeing imperfection, diversity, things that maybe should be more normalized in our society, but people aren't exposed to,
Yeah.
I think it naturally shifts that
Yeah,
conversation.
okay, cool.
I know it's not that way everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not on every show.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's good though. I mean, it's definitely it's one of the, even in one of the mornings we had, like, there was like an hour diversity call, and they were talking about tokenism. And when the lady said it, I was like, thank God.
yeah.
Like, finally we're talking, because
Yeah.
these pockets of people have to be representations. If you're
Yeah.
First Nations, they're like, I just want, like, you become a representation, you know, and there's no allowance for you to be just
Yeah.
who you are, like, as a human,
Yeah.
and all your imperfections and whatever idiosyncrasies you
Yeah.
have. But one of the things I've also noticed is production is really quick to move on things like that. And one thing I appreciate is that the streamline of moving
Yeah.
into, and like as soon as the call for diversity came, I felt it everywhere. And the reason I asked about the optics isn't necessarily because I witnessed it, but just because I feel like usually when that conversation happens, is because people just don't want to seem like a certain racist or a certain way.
And you will probably also only hear a certain version of that conversation because people are going to be aware of what they're saying around you as a black man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's definitely been times when there's been like a Freudian slip, and I'm always pretty okay with any sort of race conversation. It's not really. It's been a big part of my life. I've dealt with my own way. Canada's been nothing but amazing to me. But previous to this, I grew up in Sweden, so my entire experience as an immigrant there shaped a lot of. Yeah, it shaped a lot of. There's a lot of the reasons I got into martial arts, and a lot of the. Like PTSD, I didn't realize I had as a kid. Because when you're a kid, a lot of your world is shaped, but you're not aware of it. And then those traumas come out like decades later. But one thing I realized was that what was not helping me was not talking about the things. And so that's why I'm trying to be more proactive about, especially in this industry that means so much to me. It's a fucking beautiful industry, right? Like,
Can be.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, film is very powerful.
Yeah.
And so the fact that production is able to move so quick on these things, one other thing I've noticed is how fast during COVID everything's been set up.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there, all the performers we've had on interview, we're all in a COVID testing pool.
Yes.
For shows 3 times a week.
Yeah, we both got tested Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah, Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
And so we have absolutely never, maybe in 1918, dealt with something like this.
Yeah.
And we are one of the only industries that's able to move quick enough to allow for jobs to happen and to employ people and give them the opportunity to make money in such a uncertain time. And so what's been your experience to see how productions moved in through this pandemic and COVID?
I've definitely seen different things on different productions. Our production has had a really strong response and really strong buy-in from the crew. One of our producers got COVID in March.
Oh, okay.
And so I think everyone on the crew knows that it is a serious thing, and we are taking the appropriate steps. It's amazing how quickly they've pivoted.
Yeah.
The amount of resources that are dedicated now entirely to COVID that allow us to be one of the few industries that's operating basically at the highest capacity ever.
Yeah.
Like the film in BC is at its highest level ever.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable, right? To have that bounce back and have an opportunity to be earning money when most people have to stay home.
Yeah, and I was like, even in the fall, I ended up jumping and working on a show, but there was I felt so much gratitude to be able to work.
Yeah.
And I do feel kind of bad when I'm like people are struggling trying to get work.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things I want to do is trying to push people more towards, maybe a career change.
Yeah.
And film industry seems that between the COVID protocols, between the looking for diversity, film and TV seems to be a
Yeah.
career that's viable for a lot of people. Would you agree?
I definitely, especially behind the camera too.
Yeah.
Because as production levels increase, every department needs more people, right? We have more stunt people in front of the camera, more gags. Stunt riggers can't go from show to show
Yeah.
as easily if the WB keeps all of their people
Yeah.
kind of quarantined.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, I think film is a great career choice for a lot of people, and I think every union is taking permittees right now.
Oh, amazing.
So-
So we're in like a golden. BC is in a pretty golden era right
We
now.
are in the golden age, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Okay. So.
I wanted to revisit something that you were talking about when we were still talking about diversity.
Yeah. Of course.
You've probably noticed this too. Like
Yeah.
if a show has diversity, they'll have like one black person, one Asian person. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Right? So it's really interesting to see now with the push for diversity that we're finally getting outside of just those
Yeah.
two races,
Yeah.
like representing
Yeah. The
diverse
entire
group of
diversity
people.
of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big thing on our show. We cast some South Asian actors as main characters, and some of the response to that has been quite interesting from fans of the show saying, I'm a part of the South Asian community and I've never seen myself on a Western TV show, which really brings it home for somebody like me that has always seen a version of myself on TV.
Well, also I appreciate that you're able to acknowledge, and the fact that you're from I had no idea you're from South Africa. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but it's definitely one of those conversations I've wanted to have, and it's beautiful to hear that your show is taking it upon themselves to hire Southeast Asian. Yeah, I don't see that, and it does tend to be Black and Asian be the representative of diversity.
Which is a start, but also it's still
We need more. Like, and what by diversity it means the entire makeup of what we are as as a very complex species.
Yeah,
right?
society.
Yeah, and so with you're speaking about the course that you were offering. What was it like working with people that were the people that taking part of it, these BIPOC women, what was the feeling you got from them? Like that's, I'm interested to find out what they.
Oh, it's a pretty small community in Vancouver. When I talked to Gaston and said, hey, I think we should do this course, he was like, yeah, let's do it. I was really lucky. I wrote up a proposal. I reached out to the union. They basically funded the course. We had, I think it was $200 for a 2-day stunt driving course.
Oh my God.
Yes. And that was a classroom day and an on-track day.
Amazing.
Half of the instructors donated their vehicles. We got more vehicles at a really low price from the picture car company locally. And the feedback was amazing. The women were really excited to be doing it. And a lot of them had been around a long time. It was really cool as we had kind of women in all phases of their careers. Yeah. So, I think the oldest attendee was in her 50s.
Yeah, cool.
And the youngest was probably early 20s, but we had people who had been in film for a couple months, a couple years, but driving is one of those things that's really less accessible. Most people, especially with the kind of shows that we have in Vancouver, most people that have gotten in recently have been through martial arts or tricking. And those are skills that have they have an expiration date. Your body has an expiration date. I was very lucky. It took me a long time to get in, so I really saw that. I really saw, I was doing background with women that used to be stunt women, and they were 45. The stats are stunt women have, I think it's like a 10 to 12 year period of peak earnings, and stunt men have 20.
And is that due to the idea that under a lot of the outfits that they have to wear in the cover don't pad up as much, or what makes the?
I think a 20-year-old actress doesn't necessarily want to be doubled by a 40-year-old.
Oh.
And there is also something which is fading, but frankly, guys will hire women that they want to be around.
Yeah.
And when you're young and fresh and exciting, that is interesting, right? So there's two sides to it, but also women's bodies, if they have children, are affected. It's harder and harder as you age to stay the same size as an actress, which is not very big. So it's really relevant to expanding your skill set outside of martial arts, basically, or outside of whatever you started with, I think is really important. So I was glad to be able to create an avenue for people to try it without the huge financial investment. But long term, our community really needs that.
Yeah.
We need more women who are driving.
Yeah.
Of all colors, really.
Yeah.
But specifically women of color.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one other thing I really want to speak about is a lot of the performers, and one of the things I've noticed a lot of like the stunt community I interview are like some of the most lovely, dedicated. Like every time I go to a rehearsal, it's like cardboard boxes and fake toys. Like I'm like, we're a bunch of kids in a room. Children. Yes. We're like we're professional career children that get paid to do this.
Yeah.
But the level of because for me, what's the word? Commitment, dedication equals freedom for me. You know, the more dedicated you are to a skill set, like you're driving, like I was watching some of your driving yesterday, and I was like, holy shit. Like, oh my God. And to the dedication and time it takes to be able to get to a place where you can comfortably execute like that on demand, it takes a lot, and not everyone has that type of commitment.
Yeah.
Would you agree that dedication equals freedom? Like the idea that you're so dedicated to something that at the end of it you find the freedom from there?
That's quite an interesting way of putting it. I never would have thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
For me, specific to driving, my goal was always, I don't want to be working at like 95% of my capacity, because that's kind of a scary zone, right? But I wanted to push my 100% so far that it was someone else's 150%, you know, and I was only driving at 70%, so I was always in my comfort zone at work. The coach that I've worked with has really pushed me constantly outside of that comfort zone, and I think there's a lot to be said for that progress of, you know, you learn a new skill and you think, oh, I'm pretty good at this. You know, okay, I got this. And then you get to the phase where you realize how not good you actually are, right? With martial arts, with driving, with anything. I used to think I was a good driver. Now I know I'm not. That's the reality. Like now I know how much better I could be. And in a way that's freeing. It's also motivating. I think that creates that continual buy-in, and that's where that dedication really comes from.
Oh, and I think we lost power.
It's intermission time. Time for refreshment.
We were talking about dedication equals freedom.
Yeah, dedication equals freedom. And I guess what I wanted to get to is also the idea of progression, because you plateau, and that's when people kind of fall off. Because they're like, oh, I'm really good, and then there's a level you hit where you're like, oh, I'm gonna need to work even harder to get to that next point.
It is so discouraging when you hit that plateau of.
Oh, sorry, are we filming?
What?
Are we filming?
I don't think he cut.
Yeah, we never stopped.
Oh yeah, sorry. We never stopped.
The jacket overheated the ballast.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of insecurity in our industry, right? It's a job that is basically, if you can't handle being rejected over and over and over again, and just take it in stride, it's really not the job for you. But beyond that, when you realize, oh, there's someone better than me, there's only two responses, right? One is, I should get better. I feel threatened. I need to work harder. Or, you know, I don't see it. Nope, I'm good enough. And if you're working enough, then you might never push yourself. I think it was a real blessing for me that it took so long for me to get in, and that I didn't work a lot right away. I came in right after a wave of people, and there were enough women that were 5'6", 118, you know? There were plenty, so I had to build my skill set, and that's actually why I started driving, because nobody else was doing it, and I saw that was where the longevity was in the career.
Oh, wow.
You know, if you go on set and you look at ND drivers, you'll see men in their 60s. They're not doing ratchets. Right?
That's right.
But how many women in their 60s do you see? Because by the time they decide to make that career pivot, and I've had women call me suddenly, and it's like, oh, you're 45 and now you want to become a stunt driver, a job that takes 10 to 15 years of training.
Like to really execute, because that's a very specialized section of the industry. Yeah, like that's not a quick turnaround. Here's a few punches. It's like, no.
It's funny, I had that conversation with a newer performer who, like, I had been helping with driving and supporting with driving, and I was on set with her. We were setting up a shot. It was pretty simple what she had to do, but she kind of looked at me and she went, this is not like doing a fight scene. She's like, is it always like this? Like, you don't get a rehearsal and and I'm like, yeah, this is always like this. Like, it is just so much more, and the consequences are so much higher if you make a mistake. You're destroying equipment. If you're lucky, it's just equipment, right? Or the car. Yeah. But it could also be a person.
Yeah, an extra.
Yeah.
I remember once, I've only done one driving stunt, and it wasn't anything intense, so that's the reason I got hired for the job. And it was Brett Armstrong.
Yeah.
Great dude.
Yeah.
And he was just so kind to me when I was getting, and the car was a 1970 Barracuda. Like powerful, beautiful, gorgeous car. And we rehearsed, and I'm supposed to be whipping into this driveway with the actress and her friend in the back. Pull up, there's supposed to be a bunch of paparazzi, open the door, she gets out. So we run the practice, I get in, everything's fine. And we're setting up for this shot, and I'm about maybe like 20 feet from where I'm supposed to be turning into the parking lot and everything. So the actress is in the back, and she has a tee, and I'm trying to like pay as much attention. He wants to be coming kind of hot off the top, whipping the, like come in, and the actress is like, hold this, gives me her tee, right? So I'm holding her tee, and I'm listening to the radio, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I'm like, put it in my legs, and I'm hearing, and then I hear the coordinator go, and I like whip around, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, ah! So I pull in, she gets out of the car, and I pull into the back of the house, and then the actor's supposed to run out. You know, like cowboy switch. And which a cowboy switch is when a stunt performer switches with the actor off camera and you don't see it and they jump in frame. And I remember Brett ran up, and I was like, she gave me her tea, and he looked down, I was like, fuck.
It looked like you peed yourself.
Yeah, and he was like, I swear I didn't pee myself, man. And then we had kind of a laugh about that, but it's one thing with certain coordinators. It's I can always tell when they have done the job long because they're able to take new performers like me, make them feel competent enough in the job, and then give you what you need around that. Now, you as a coordinator, you're in an interesting role where you're a teacher. Like you're generally a teacher. Like that's what you do when you bring these people in. You have to make sure that they execute. You have to bring the experience you have to them. Do you love that role as a teacher?
There's elements of the job that I like.
Yeah.
I don't like having to explain my expectations more than once to people.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But I also feel like we are professionals and we should show up being professional. You know, I don't want to have the conversation of why did you show up late to this job that you are so lucky to have because of, you know?
Yeah,
and,
really.
And for me, so there's that line between, is this a teachable person?
Oh, okay.
I try to surround myself with the people that are keen, that are observant, that are trying to learn, that have a positive attitude, that are friendly with the crew and everyone else. I mean, our crew is really special. It's a bunch of really nice people. Lots of people want to come and work with me because they're like, your crew is so nice. You know, but that's how it could be. So I like being able to talk people through gags, explain what I want from them. I like it when that works well. So with teachable people, I enjoy it. And a big part of the job is also teaching the cast, right? Yeah. So developing that relationship, developing that trust with the cast and being able to allow them, prepare them to do things that maybe are on the edge of what they would have thought they could do, but they're actually really capable of doing. Cool. Yeah, that's really fun.
Nice. Yeah. And for yourself, would you consider yourself an introvert, extrovert, or a combination of the both?
I used to be an extrovert.
Yeah.
I don't think I still am.
Yeah.
You know, maybe ambivert or what do they call it? Extroverted introvert. Yeah. Like I like my social time with the people that I really like. Yeah. But I don't need to be around people all the time. Okay, cool. Because
one other reason I wanted to find, because that role as a coordinator, if you're an introvert, I could imagine how exhausting it could be. Especially you get home and then you got to diffuse and you get that alone time in order to kind of recharge your battery. Yeah. So for you, with all the, I don't even know how many more hours a week you guys have to put in just to make sure everything's okay. What are some of the steps you take to deal with those expectations and to be able to give yourself the buffer you need in order to be the best ZANDARA for that? Like, Is that with you time with your dog? Is that a walk in the park?
I do spend a lot of time with my dogs. I'm really lucky. Our show's on the North Shore, so often I will go before work. I'll go into the forest for an hour or two, and
Nice.
then the dogs will just hang out in the van.
Cool.
If I'm in the office prepping.
Yeah.
Do a lot of that. I'm lucky to work with a friend who I have assisting me on the show, so that kind of banter and that relationship that we have really helps kind of de-stress things.
Cool,
but
yeah.
also not being alone in the department, because often on a smaller show it will be just the coordinator alone, kind of processing all of this stuff, and like when you look to go like, did anyone else just see that? Like it's just you. You have no one else to kind of commiserate with on your departmental challenges that are unique.
Yeah, because right now, especially considering a lot of people are trying to figure out ways to mitigate their stress, anxiety, and all that. So I'm always trying to find ways that these like highly trained professionals deal with. Because your job is about executing under stressful situations. And so the time to yourself in the forest, the time you have with the people you love. What advice would you give to people trying to figure out a way to, like, especially from a professional that has to mitigate stress, how do you give that to somebody, let's say, maybe that has a report they need to hand in and they're stressed out, but they have, let's say, a few weeks to do it? Like, what are some advice you could give to people?
I'm a chronic procrastinator, I have to be honest. I mean, I grew up that way, and from a family of procrastinators, and I work best under pressure.
Yeah, okay.
So in a way, the job is ideal for me because I know I have to do things. There's a deadline. This paperwork is due at this time. We're shooting this thing tomorrow, so we have to be ready. I know the research. I know what things are supposed to be really good for stress management in terms of doing mindfulness, that daily practice, gratitude. Do I always do them? Sometimes you make that excuse of like, well, I don't have the time for that, even though doing that makes you so much more effective and efficient. And just happier.
Definitely. I've found ways. I didn't realize how much chatter I have just going on in my head until I tried to be quiet or meditate. And that was a struggle. And I was like, it's this, you just get so used to noise and white noise. And so now that's definitely been a practice I've been trying to find. And also with where we're at right now, in hand with people dealing with stress and trying to manage expectations and execute, is there any advice you would give for, because mental health right now is a topic I think besides just the pandemic we need to kind of talk more about. And with people that are isolated, necessarily maybe don't live with somebody or even don't have an animal, because I didn't like Nietzsche, that beautiful dog is my first dog. And having him now, I can't imagine not having a dog. And so what advice would you give for anyone like maybe dealing with that, that loneliness, that just the pain we're all kind of dealing with right now?
I mean, I think you're right. Pets make a huge difference to people's mental health, especially when we can't really be connecting with other people. I definitely lean pretty heavily on them. I think we really need to normalize the idea of therapy. I think it's really important to say, you know what, sometimes this is more than I can handle and I need someone to process that with. I think that's actually the healthiest thing you can do for all of your relationships, is to take whatever you're processing out of the equation sometimes and give that to someone whose only job is to process that with you.
Amen. Like that's, agreed.
So I think normalizing the conversation, being able to say to at least one person in your life, hey, I'm actually kind of really struggling today, and just sit with that. It's okay to be like that.
Yeah, it's okay, people.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, it's okay not to be okay. And I like, even up until 2 years ago, one of the things I've tried to be more is to be as honest with who I am, because I don't want a false representation. And so I deal with depression, like especially now with these times, but one thing I realized is the normalizing of therapy, because I started seeing a therapist, and I didn't realize how much power there is in releasing it, and also telling people that your significant other isn't supposed to be your therapist. Because I think that's what happens. A lot of people depend on this person that's not maybe equipped to deal with whatever.
Well, it's not even a question of equipped. You might have a significant other who can take on all of that stuff, but it's not healthy for them to do it.
Should they take on that stuff?
Is their role in your life just to take all of your shit on, or do they have their own stuff too? So dedicating a person who you're exchanging money with to do that thing alleviates some of the guilt of having to put that heavy burden on people. But yeah, definitely, I agree. And it's funny too when you start bringing it up. Like I've said to friends before, like, oh yeah, I have a therapy appointment tomorrow. They're like, oh yeah, I was trying to cram one in. And it starts this dialogue of like, hey, you know what? We all have someone we talk to and that's normal and healthy, you know?
One thing I found out with men, it's harder to get that conversation going because like it's almost like seen as a sign of weakness. Like they're like, oh my dude, I'll just go pump it out at the gym.
I'll just go punch walls.
I'll just go, you know, and then cry myself to sleep at night. You know, like there's a level of this machismo-ness that I think we should normalize, and therapy is a very crucial thing for like not even just high stress. I think just for emotional regulation across the board. And it is, I totally agree. We should normalize it because that conversation is something, especially now, we need to have more and more. Because what happens is people tend to slip into things you're not even aware of, you know, and patterns you're not even aware of until you open up to somebody, and then you're like, oh, that's why I'm so reactive. Yeah. And so, especially in an industry where, you know, like you get compensated well, you have these highs when you do the job, and then you have all this downtime, and so. One of the things I want to do is bring up the conversation of being able to manage and stay on top of your emotional and mental health through, because what happens, like for me especially, like I'll use myself an example instead of trying to talking generalities, is you know, you grow up your entire life, you're like, well, I saw my mom poor, so I need to make money in order to do this, and so my entire life was like, do everything, money is going to be the solution. Yeah. And then when you get to that place, you realize there's so many more holes that I need to deal with emotionally. Yeah. The money's not going to help. And what ends up happening is that money could actually destroy you because you're not dealing with these, like the child traumas or like all these accumulated things that we all carry and we bag it. So my question to you is, like, we're in a society where we get told that we're doing well because of our financial standing. Yeah. You know, oh, you must. But if you're not emotionally regulated, you're not doing well. Yeah. So people perceive you doing well because of the outer exterior. So do you think it's important before you pursue something you really want, you know, for you to kind of dive deep and find out why you want that, as opposed to attaining it?
I think that you can explore it at the same time. Okay. I think it can happen concurrently because I think you learn about yourself as you're pursuing those things. Like something that I've learned about myself, I describe myself as a relentless wanting machine. Okay. What I've realized is there's always a new thing. There's always a new goal. I mean, career-wise, I've achieved so much more than I ever wanted for myself 10 years ago. Yeah. And I'm just hungry, you know? So that's a deeper conversation. What is that? Am I okay with that part of my nature? Do I want to address that void inside, or do I also see what I gain from it? Right? So I see that hunger or that inability to be fulfilled inside of myself. It's a blessing too, right? Okay. I wouldn't have what I have if I wasn't the way that I am. Yeah. But the price of getting what I get is that I have to feel like this. Yeah. You know, that's...
So it's a gift and a curse.
It is. And I think always being open to those conversations and reflecting about it, I do think it's really important. And something that you touched on before, with the stunt industry in particular, I think there's an extra onus that's placed on being tough. Yeah. Listen, if somebody cries on set, I'm going to be like, that person's a little bitch. Yeah. Like, why would we hire that person? Okay, at work, you need to be tough. It's our job to be tough. And when they say bring in the real people, that's a pretty clear indication of how we are treated. We are objects. We are disposable.
We're tools.
We are replaceable. And if we get hurt, they just keep shooting. You know, I had an incident where I got very seriously hurt, and they said, we need to keep the ambulance in case anything else happens. And they sent me in a shuttle to the hospital with my arm in S-shaped, basically, you know, and it was like, okay, see you later. That was the reality. Like, you are not important to us. So in light of that, and because we prioritize toughness, I think it can be very hard to have those emotional conversations, especially for stunt guys.
Yeah.
I think I have less respect, or I know that, like, within myself, I can be quite judgmental of stunt women that are not tough enough at work.
Yeah.
And the same of guys.
Yeah.
But when it comes to offset, I think we need to be able to have those discussions because it sucks to have a super long day where you just ate shit all day, and people were like, yeah, you're super cool, but then you're like, I'm just really hurt right now. Like, I just want someone to hold me.
Yeah,
Like, I've definitely had days like that where, there is an emotional consequence to being physically battered over and over again. And there's the other side of that is the head injuries, right? And the consequences and the long-term effects of concussions, which we're still learning about, come with emotional instability, come with reactive behavior, come with
impulsiveness.
All of those things combine to frequently negatively affect our mental health. Yeah. So opening those discussions, I think, is really important.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that's the one that it's so well put. Like, it's there's a certain like you bring that layer of armor when you're at work. Yeah. But there's you do take a toll being battered like that. And for me, this is like this last 8 months. I feel like I'm kind of. It's now a portion where it's like 5 years. Like like so now looking around, I'm starting to feel that other side of it. It's glorious, but it's also the acknowledgement of what comes with this.
Yeah.
It's like where and because even this last week I did a wire gag, took a huge hit. I didn't really think twice about it because you were all amped up until like the second day when I had day off, and I was like, I feel off today. And I didn't know. I was like, oh, that's right. I took a pretty fucking big spill. But I started realizing, I was like, oh, okay, so there's a end date to what my body can do. Yeah. And it's important, like you were saying, to diversify your skill set. And another thing I really want to talk about, I was talking to George a bit about it, but the importance of the risk stunt performers take, and then in conjunction to the lack of praise they get. Because they're like these amazing people that work so hard for action, but no one ever praises. They never get the acknowledgement. Like the Academy Awards, I think this coming year finally.
Are they?
I hear whisperings. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They're just gonna keep saying it until whenever. Yeah. But they're such amazing people. Like every stunt performer you meet, these are like very committed, like, and
I might have a little disagreement here.
Okay, cool, yeah.
And maybe that's a new school, old school thing.
Okay, cool.
We're supposed to be unseen. And so those stunt people that need constant attention and praise should be actors.
Okay, so our job is to be...
Yes, I think that stunts should be acknowledged by the industry. Yeah. But we're not... Actually, I'm going to agree and disagree with myself. Yeah, okay, cool. There was a time when stuntmen were just as important as... They were like Hollywood stars. Yeah, right? Okay. There was a time when they would be marrying lead actresses, and they were super well known. Yeah. And then we became... this unseen, you're not supposed to notice a stunt person. If a stunt person is doing their job correctly, you will never know that they were there, right? Okay, the perfect double looks just like their actor, moves just like their actor, and it's seamless. Yeah. So part of our art is becoming other people. We are performers, but it's not the stunt person show, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I think especially on action-heavy shows, people forget that in the end, we're telling a story. Yeah. The fight is super cool, but I can't watch a 5-minute fight scene if I'm not invested in why they're fighting. Why they're fighting, copy. Atomic Blonde, to me, did such a good job of doing the fight scenes because you saw the physical impact on the characters. Yeah. It wasn't just like, cool move, like Jason Bourne. It's like, oh wow, they're wounded. Like there's a plot development. There's a story that's being told with the action. And I think it's important that we remember, like, we do cool stuff and we'll get acknowledgement from the crew. Now and then we'll get acknowledgement from the people we double. Yeah. But oftentimes our job is we go to work. Yeah. People tell us, you're so cool and awesome. Yeah. You did an awesome thing. And then you go home and then you feel like, yeah. Does anyone else know? No, yeah. They thought I was really awesome. Yeah. But I think it's important to acknowledge the job that we do. It's problematic to even figure out what Oscar do you give? Do you give the Oscar to the performer? Do you give the Oscar to the
Coordinator.
ensemble? Do you give the Oscar to the coordinator who didn't do the stunt?
Yeah.
You know, like it really is it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Right? The picking one person and giving them an Oscar, I think, would be a challenge.
That would be.
So I think it would have to be a team thing.
Wow, you really brought some insight to that, because it's like that is the job, is to do it so well that they don't even know that there was a double involved in there. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, is there anything, like, I'm going to cut this part off, but is there any topic that you would really want to talk about, or is there something that, is there any?
Off the top of my head, no. I feel like we've flowed through quite a lot of pretty interesting stuff. But
well, I guess so. Towards like we'll wind down more so with a conversation about maybe we'll bring it to where you want to take your career for these next this foreseeable decades.
Yeah.
So 16 years in the industry, stacked CV. Do you feel like you've done everything you want to in the last 16 years? So what direction would you like to move towards in this next section of your life?
I have a few things I really want to explore. Something that's always been on my list, and I just keep saying it so that it will happen, is I want to drive on a Bond movie.
Cool.
Ideally, I want to drive and double the first female Bond.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah. But I just love doing car chases. I love being in the hot seat, and I've had more and more opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
But that's something I really want to expand on. Coordinating has been something that I didn't initially pursue, but I do quite enjoy. I love being more of a part of the collaborative process, of the creative process, of building things and of telling the stories. And to that end, I'm curious about exploring if I'd like to direct, So
okay.
I might explore that option and see if I want to tell those stories.
Yeah.
And like as I work with more and more directors, you really start to see how many decisions they have to make, how much prep goes into that. Like we think we work hard, but everything in front of camera, that was a decision made by the director.
Yeah.
How do you want the fight to be? Like, what do you want to happen? What color shoes should he have? Do you like this rope?
Yeah.
Like
hair up or down?
There's so many decisions that you have to make, but I think it's really cool to tell a story and to have a part in that. So like as I do more pre-vising, as I do more prep, and I start to be a part of that creative process, I start to realize that I do have strong opinions, that I do have a way that I would want to tell the story. So I might want to tell a few stories.
Is there cool? So like, is there any specific trait you've noticed with directors that really like maybe you're like, oh, that's a good director?
Yes, and it really varies. I mean, the best director I've worked with was also a producing director, and Larry Tang, you probably worked with him.
Yeah.
He knows everybody's job. He knows everybody's job. He knows how the lenses work.
Yeah.
He knows how he wants it to be lit.
Yeah.
He knows what the stunts are. He knows everything, but then he empowers the crew. He says, this is what I want in language that makes sense to the person who's doing the job, and then he lets them do it. Oh, wow. He empowers them to perform at their best, and they do, and it's super rewarding. And when people perform well, they're acknowledged, and genuinely appreciated. So as a leader, I think that's an amazing characteristic to have, and that level of detail and preparation, I think, is really important. I've noticed a real difference between directors that were actors, directors that were editors. Like each director kind of comes from a different background, and it's interesting to see how strong, like an editing director usually doesn't waste any time at all because they already know how they're going to cut it together. They don't shoot extra stuff. Whereas a director that was an actor knows how to get the performance out of the cast, but might not know how they're going to make the edit. So they might shoot longer, but get better actual performances.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I love, like, I think that's the best part about working on episodic TV is you work with a different director every episode or every block, and you get to see what's good about them, what they do well, what they don't do well, and kind of try pick and choose, like, oh, I want that quality. I need to learn more about that. And so, each director has their own strengths.
Cool. I'm just imagining the poster. It was like ZANDARA, Killer, Clutch, Kennedy, director, and you're just standing there with a badass pose.
But see, the thing is, directors are like stunt people.
Yeah, they don't want to be seen.
But it's not just they don't want to be seen. I mean, unless they're, a celebrity director in
Yeah.
a sense, you don't know they exist, right?
Yeah.
And you just see the story that they tell, especially in TV. No one's going, oh, yeah, this is my favorite director of,
Yeah.
Arrow.
Yeah.
They just are like, I love that episode. It was super
Yeah.
great. And in a way, that too is unsung.
And I guess there's a level of, it's kind of nice that you're able to leave work and leave it there.
Yeah.
You do your job, everyone appreciate, and the people that really appreciate it, but you're not doing it because you want to be known for it.
Yeah.
And I guess also another thing I've always noticed was there's some like performers that I've worked with that are like about roughly the same time frame as me, but they kind of treat this as an individual sport, not a team sport.
Yeah.
Because I came in, I was like, oh, we're playing a team sport.
Yeah.
That's all I played growing up. I was like, oh, I get how this works. It's like if I'm the wing, I understand my position
Yeah.
in rugby as the wing and the fullback. So I understand everyone's position when we're on set. But now that you mentioned it, that we're supposed to be seen, and our job, if we do it well, is we're not seen. But I can now see the interruption where some performers is like, maybe you should be an actor, or like you want to be seen.
At the end of the day, especially on a stunt team,
Yeah.
like you might trade the best performer
Yeah,
for the person that brings the most to the team.
yeah.
Because aside from when you're performing, and half the time we're going to use your actors' shots anyway,
yeah.
right? There's all the mats that need to get moved to one
Yeah.
place or another. There's anticipating what's happening next, and the guy that's on his phone or needing attention is not helping the team perform well.
Yeah.
They're just actually making the team look bad.
Yeah, and that's
You know?
and it's funny when because you can feel it. Like there's
Yeah.
times when it's like you are trying to anticipate needs
Mm-hmm.
because it's a things are moving so fast that if there's any lag of information or where you're supposed to be, it's like the less tentative you are on set, the more dangerous everything kind of becomes, right?
Yeah, I mean, you want to hire the guy who's got his harness on because
Yeah.
we heard we were moving on.
Yeah.
You want to hire the guy that you're like, hey man,
Yeah.
where's your harness?
Yeah. So would you say, like, for any up and coming performers, anyone new, would you say anticipation is one of the key things that you need to be able to do?
I would call it situational awareness.
Situational awareness.
See what
I
else is happening in the
love that.
room. Read your call sheet. Read
Yeah.
the sides. Oh, that's the scene where this is happening. Oh, if that's happening, we're probably next. You know what? Pads on.
Get ready.
Hey, should I go pad the actor now? It seems like we're getting close to what we're doing. That just takes something off of your boss's plate.
Yeah.
Right? Making sure that you're supporting the team, supporting the cast. In the end, that's really what our job is supporting the production, supporting the cast, and
Yeah.
telling the story. So however you can support your boss is going to make you more valuable and make them want to have you around.
Cool. So for now, we're in a time now when submissions for like your reel, back in the day it was like VHS. I was talking to Bam about it. You throw in
I used to have DVDs. Yeah.
you send it out.
Yeah.
But now we're in like this where you can just send stuff on your phone. What advice would you give to any person that, let's say, has no connection to anyone in the industry but wants to get in?
Well, now it's pretty easy to get access to coordinator information, or at the very least, the production's information.
Yeah.
So it's easy to send it to production and say, please send to the stunt coordinator, and they'll forward it on.
Cool.
Don't be upset when someone doesn't reply, because
Yeah.
they might have gotten 67 emails that day, and
Yeah.
if it's the right moment, they'll take a look at it. But just be persistent. I mean, I sent out hundreds and hundreds of resumes that never got any kind of response at all, and I had to print my photos and know that they were going into somebody's garbage.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's digital, so you don't have to you don't have to worry about the trees, you don't have to worry about your
Yeah.
picture in the garbage everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, be persistent but humble. Don't expect a response. Don't know if somebody wants to be texted before
Yeah.
you text them. You know, I
Cool,
mean,
yeah.
email is kind of that nice balance between like it shows up in their phone, but they can also just not look at it now.
Yeah. Cool. And situational awareness. That I love that. I never thought about that. But yeah, it makes sense. Like being able to like look around and be like, okay, what's moving forward? What are we doing?
I do have one more thing actually. Now
Cool,
that I
yeah.
think about it. Do other jobs on a film set.
Do other jobs on a film set.
Learn without doing stunts
Yeah.
how a film set works, who the people are, who the players are, so that if you embarrass yourself, you're not embarrassing someone that you're wanting to hire you. You're
Yeah.
just there watching. That's why background was so important for a lot of people getting in, because you could see stunts happening, you could watch what was going on, you could see how the production works, but you're inconsequential.
Yeah.
You know, you're invisible.
Yeah.
So it's a way to learn. It's tough when people's only job has been as a stunt performer. It's pretty apparent.
Yeah.
Like, where do I get an apple box from? If you can't answer that question,
yeah.
yeah, it's a problem.
So do you have any, like, ZANDARA's top 3, like, life, I don't even know what to just call it, like your top 3 things to follow in life, you know, like the 3 keys to ZANDARA. If you were going to have a success book about motivation, and you're like, ZANDARA's 3 keys.
Definitely imbalance.
Imbalance?
I don't think that's a good thing, but I think I live in a very imbalanced sort of way. I'm very driven. I just work myself till I'm exhausted, and then I collapse for a bit, and then I get motivated again. But I don't know. I think everyone has their own path. My path has worked for me, but I would hate to impose my structure on anybody else.
Cool. Yeah. Is there any other 2 you'd follow up with? If you had like the last 2 chapters of ZANDARA's memoirs, and you were going to give advice, what are 2 things that you've kind of accumulated in your life? And
I mean, I've definitely learned it's almost never about you.
Okay, cool.
You know, I think that's a really big one.
Huge.
Don't take it personally. Yeah. It usually isn't. But I really try to reflect on my role in situations, even if it's not about me. You know, what could I have done differently? How did I affect the situation? What is the impact that I'm having on the people around me? I think is something that I'm processing a lot right now.
Cool.
That has repercussions outside of the industry.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. To be like a little more self-aware.
Yeah. Well, would I be proud of myself? You know, can I look at myself in the mirror? Would my friends be proud of me and what I'm doing? Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. ZANDARA, thank you so much for being able to come and talk about diversity, talk about representation. You know, a lot of things that I want to be able to talk about that, you know, personally because I represent the group, but B because I think it's valuable conversations to have. I think one of my examples is like one of the sad stories I heard was who's the actor that is in Taken? Liam Neeson?
Yeah, like I watched an interview when he was being very open and honest about his experience with race, and he had a situation happen to a friend growing up, and he was reactive. He wanted to protect the friend. He was looking out. He was like, anyone in this group will do. And then when that moment came into his head, he was like, oh my God. And he got reprimanded for that comment. And I felt that was unfair because what we're doing now is we're not allowing people to have full discourse about a very important thing, you know? And what that tells people is not to talk about it. And because I felt for it. Like you watch that conversation, I'm like, man, it takes so much for you to be that honest. Yeah. And I didn't look at him. I was like, oh, you racist bastard. I was like, thank you for being honest. Because I was like, there are certain things that happened to me from a group of people growing up that I've said shit that if I was in public would have probably been perceived as pretty angry and hateful. But that's why I go to therapy and try to figure out these complex emotions. So in an industry where we're quick to kind of cut these people down, I feel like these are conversations we should have. And ZANDARA Killer Clutch Kennedy, thank you so much for being so wonderful and teaching all of us about where the industry is moving towards and things to kind of look forward to. And you've made me very optimistic about it being actual, legitimate changes as opposed to just optics.
I'm sure there's a bit of both, but you know, we have to stay positive, right?
Cool, yeah.
Thanks for creating the space. It's fun.
Appreciate that. So everyone, as you hear, if you're dealing with any sort of mental health, therapy is okay. You know, it's okay to not be okay, like ZANDARA said. And also that this is a very viable career choice for a lot of people in a lot of different, there's a lot of different moving parts in the film industry. Yeah. So if you've ever had an inclination or want, I would say this is the time to go for it. And your friend from Stunt Corner, Eric Mazumpaka with ZANDARA Killer Clutch. Stay tuned for another episode following up in 2 weeks. ZANDARA, once again, thank you so much. And everyone stay blessed.
I'm on my mission. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission. Oh, yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission. Oh, yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission. Oh, yeah. New rebels. We the new rebels. New rebels. We the new rebels. They be saying good is bad. They be saying bad is good. Everybody got it misunderstood. I don't know what happened. Everybody get get to tripping, all the Christians get to slipping. Seem like everybody switching, everybody get to going off the deep end. They was doing good until the weekend. They ain't hit the flow with the knee bend. They was going strong but had a weekend. Oh Lord, I altered the truth. Say what's good is good. What's bad is bad. I altered the truth. Say what's good is good. What's bad is bad. New rebels, yes, make us new rebels.